Sarah Palin didn't hold back this past week, calling out the shenanigans of politicians. Palin wrote on Facebook, "Dirty politics. Witnessing firsthand, it's always heartbreaking, never surprising. Thank heavens Donald Trump opened so many eyes to the lies, corruption, and total lack of accountability that comes so naturally to the permanent political class." And Senator Ted Cruz was spot on when he once noted that, quote, "millions of Americans are asking for accountability and truth," unquote. Which is why it's so curious and saddens us, this lack of accountability with the lies of Cruz's own campaign. Cruz's campaign chairman, U.S. Representative Steve King, is lying, and good for Dr. Ben Carson for calling this out. King, who previously asked for and received my endorsement, time, and resources to support his own election, is still lying about my altruistic support of Mr. Trump, and he's refused to provide any evidence to the contrary. And this U.S. congressman actually lied to his own constituents on behalf of Cruz regarding a good man, Dr. Carson. He told voters Carson was dropping out of the presidential race immediately before the Iowa caucus, causing a relative uproar inside the process, so the word would spread and he could rack up more votes for his candidate, Cruz. That's a dirty trick. Dr. Carson deserved better. The voters deserved better. Where is the accountability for these political actions? Very sad. Typical Washington tactics. This is why the status quo has got to go. Our friend Dr. Carson put it so well. As Christians, of course, we accept people's apologies. We also have to ask ourselves, is this acceptable to us, the American people, or should there be some accountability? There should be some consequences for things. You don't just say, oh, okay, sorry, okay, let's move on. The damage was done to me, it was done to them. We've had 8 years of a reckless president, accountable to no one, pushing this country to the brink. Why would we ever take a risk repeating that? We are never going to turn this country around if we keep electing more of the same. Just like conservatives have been preaching in opposition to Obama's political tactics for years, actions speak louder than words. The Cruz campaign's actions to destroy a good man's efforts to serve are no different than Obama's practice of not holding anyone accountable. Typical politics, typical politicians. Palin also wrote on Facebook, "Phony GOP establishment preaches do as I say, not as I do." Dr. Ben Carson and Donald Trump are right for trying to get someone in authority to hear what we, the people, are saying. The shenanigans and the bogus Iowa vote count tell you what the GOP machine is all about. It's sick. It rails against Obama's unethical practice of never holding his people accountable when they engage in obvious deception, yet must idolize the guy because they're doing the same thing he does. No more politics as usual. These corrupt, unaccountable actions of typical politicians are why our republic's in jeopardy. Carson and Trump, you are right, and shame on these establishment shills and candidates for trying to sweep their deception under the rug. This is why the status quo has got to go. Carry the torch on this, Carson and Trump supporters. Ignore the pundits telling us to sit down and shut up. Don't make our candidates do it alone. We, the people, must be heard. Sarah Palin. Well, Rand Paul dropped out of the presidential race this past week. He will run for re-election to the U.S. Senate. Governor Palin saying thank you to Senator Rand Paul for running a positive, principled, and productive campaign for president. His voice was one of the most important in the race, with a strong message articulating the beauty of liberty and the importance of standing firm on constitutional principles. Rand is one of the few understanding how to bring the conservative liberty message to new audiences. He's grown the movement, and I respect him enormously for that and for his healthy libertarian streak that so many of us share. Specifically appreciated is Rand's take on war. We only go with a path to victory, and we quit footing the bill for everyone else. I was proud to be an early supporter of Senator Paul's first campaign for U.S. Senate in 2010, and today I'm pledging to do all I can to make sure this strong leader returns to the Senate in 2016. Stand with Rand by making a donation, big or small. You can do that at secure.randpaul2016.com. And a great story this past week, Governor Palin told us about a big date she had with her youngest child, Trig. Palin included some adorable pictures of Trig and wrote on social media, "Best date ever. Trig letting me hang with him at the local sporting goods store is our perfect Saturday date. Quality time before tuning into the GOP New Hampshire debate on TV. He'll be thrilled to hear it in the background tonight, whether he knows it or not. But it's important. It's every kid's future." To see any of the governor's posts in their entirety, visit Sarah Palin's Facebook page, follow her on Twitter at Sarah Palin USA, and check out sarahpac.com.
Now, the Palin Update with Kevin Scholla presents Liberty and Legacy. Here's Tamara Colbert.
Last week's debate solidified really the dominance of Donald Trump, either way you look at it. Trump proved that he was not about to be beholden to anyone, including Fox News. So not only did he not get pummeled by moderators, but he raised $6 million for veterans charities. I'm not endorsing anyone yet. Haven't even really made up my mind. Whether you like Trump or not, you have to respect the fact that he is running his campaign on his terms. Not the media's, not the elite political machines, nor the pundits. And he is absolutely steamrolling through the 2016 polls, election history, and it looks like closing in on the possibility of being our next president. As the early voting states put us on the path of weeding through these presidential hopefuls, we must remember we cannot put our hope in a man or a woman. It is very important to remember that no president can save America or fix our biggest issues single-handedly. The Constitution was built to protect citizens and individual sovereignty. You and I are number one. Not a president, not a candidate. Only the American people united in purpose can save America. We, the people, are the final and fourth check and balance for the rule of law and the Constitution. Thankfully, the authors of the Constitution permanently gave you and I this option in Article 5. It gives our state legislators the solemn duty as the last line of defense as the guardians of liberty. And really, you and I are the guardians of liberty. We're the ones. We have to push our state legislators. We have to remind them what is important, and we have to remind them of their solemn duty. Anyone who opposes the Article 5 Convention of States movement opposes the Constitution, period. We should not fear Article 5 because it was written by America's founders as a means of citizens being able to correct an out-of-control federal government. The groups and individuals attacking the Constitution are attacking Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and James Madison, those men who pledged their blood, their fortunes, and their sacred honor in the founding of this great nation. If you believe in America and the Constitution, then these groups are directly assaulting you too. America was not founded on voting in the right people. Let me say that again. America was not founded on voting in the right people. Our nation was founded on the premise that free people must be vigilant and active in local, state, and federal political process in order to protect our inalienable rights. But did you know that George Washington got the same opposition as the Convention of States project is getting right now? He was up against opponents who were terrified of the Constitution, terrified of making the Constitution our law of the land. I find it ironic that we can vote in Obama under, quote, hope and change, while we have conservatives who won't use the Constitution to save it. We must not waver from our duty as Americans. We must be fearless, unafraid, and courageous in our efforts to protect the rule of law and our Constitution. Recently, Governor Abbott of Texas and American economist Thomas Sowell and others have added their names to a growing list of conservative heavyweights advocating for a convention of states. Will you add yours? You can do so at conventionofstates.com. Sign up, volunteer, be a supporter, sign a petition that will go directly to your state legislators. And let me know this week if you did, at Tamara Colbert, hashtag Mama Grizzly Radio. I hope you have a blessed week. May God bless us in making good choices. And through those good choices, may God continue to bless America. See you next week. I'm Tamara Colbert for Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tamara Colbert in Texas. Tune in for more Liberty and Legacy next week. And to learn about Convention of States, head to conventionofstates.com. Now our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. Just like most things these days, nobody seems to accurately depict this administration's foreign policy. But let's call it like it is. A ransom is a sum of money or other payment demanded or paid for the release of a prisoner. One of the synonyms used for the term ransom could be payoff. The 4 U.S. citizens that Iran kidnapped were released for ransom paid by this administration in the form of the release of 7 criminals, dismissal of charges against 14 wanted criminals, and $150 billion cashola. I'd call that a hefty ransom. So once again, this administration has succumbed to the demands of terrorists, thereby encouraging terrorist cells all over the world to kidnap American citizens. We would call their actions a positive incentive in economics. Then to top it off, Secretary of State John Kerry actually conceded that some of the $150 billion could go to groups considered terrorists. But there was absolutely nothing, of course, that the United States could do about it. Obama, Kerry, and Hillary are all responsible for this feckless foreign policy. Let's pray we don't have another 8 years of this, because our very survival and safety as a nation is at stake. This is Sarah Steelman from Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. The Palin Update, including Liberty and Legacy and Steel Resolve, is on demand and available for download. So just head to mamagrizzlyradio.com, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Visit mamagrizzlyradio.com for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also, like Mama Grizzly Radio on Facebook. And follow along on Twitter at Mama Grizz Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Tamara Colbert, and at Sarah_Steelman. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Go to Breitbart.com and search Kevin Scholla. I want to thank Sarah Steelman, Tamara Colbert, and everyone here at Mama Grizzly Radio. Thanks to Lee Greenwood, and thank you for listening today. A special thanks to our sponsor, Narrowgate Security Agency. Visit narrowgate.com. The Palin Update is produced by Lena Anderson, the Andy L. Kramer, and Lori Ann Lewis. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update right here on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.